All right, welcome back everyone to Tuesday Night Eternals Expedition Challenge. We've had two great rounds so far, and we are entering round 3 of the Swiss. We've seen some sweet decks so far, and looking forward to some more great action. We have a quick update on the standings. So, standings right now are that we have 3 players at 2-0. So we've got Loco Pojo and Captain Team Bro. We've seen them a few times. They're both at 2-0. We also have a third 2-0 at PapaCapricorn. Then after that, we've got a number of 1-1s. Now, if you're 1-1, you're still alive right now. So remember, this is cut to top 4. So these players are all still alive. You've got Magikarp, Hoyt the Mage, Bardine, Mattyocre, Noverb, and Laranja. And then John Holio at 0-2. So we've got a couple good ones here. What we're going to do is we're going to feature PapaCapricorn at 2-0 versus Mattyocre. We have not seen PapaCapricorn yet. So let's go over here and see PapaCapricorn's deck here. So this looks like another Stone Scar deck. So this is actually going to be a Stone Scar mirror. Now their decks look a little different. Mattyocre's is a little bit lower to the ground. You got more 1-drops, 2-drops, 3-drops. Looks like PapaCapricorn's is a little bit bigger, going up with the Smugglers. And then you got Kozin, Incarnus, Eclipse Dragon, and Carvet at the top. So really trying to take kind of the step above the aggro deck, where it's a little bit more of a Stone Scar mid-range deck, with really using the power over the curve out there. Whereas Mattyocre is going to be a little bit more of the low-cost curve out deck here.
Of note as well that the PapaCapricorn is also running 4 of Cremate, which is a new removal spell that came in the last set. But the value of this card here, even though it is a little bit slower because of the fact that it's 4 power versus the Char and the more low-to-the-ground stuff that we see Mattyocre running, the Cremate does offer the ability to remove sights. So what this will do is, in most cases when Mattyocre has to decide on whether they want to take a turn off from attacking face to take out a sight, obviously here, PapaCapricorn can simply just take the sight off at their leisure while still swinging face, as well as giving, a little bit of void-bound action is still relevant in a format where Immortalize is a thing.
All right, and they are ready to go, so let's take it down. So we are going to be viewing from PapaCapricorn's side, and we've got the hand cam for Mattyocre. So it looks like PapaCapricorn is looking at a hand of Cremate, Teething Whelp, and Eclipse Dragon, whereas Mattyocre's got Akko, Kalos Persuader, Crooked Alley Guide, and Teething Whelp. So a pair of 1-drops, a 2-drop, and a weapon for Mattyocre, and some power here. So a 2-drop removal spell and Eclipse Dragon for PapaCapricorn. So 2 pretty good hands for both players.
Of note, Mattyocre is not on the play this time, so we'll see if that comes into play. Also, even though there's plenty of action in PapaCapricorn's hand, they are missing the second fire for both Cremate and the 2 Eclipse Dragons. So we'll find out if that ends up playing a factor in this as well.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. PapaCapricorn actually can't cast anything else in their hand at the moment. Now, they do have the emblems, which they will be able to decimate if they choose to and be able to play those. Which looks like they are going to do to be able to keep playing things. So they are going to play out the 2/2 deadly here.
See, and that's the one thing I have issues with Akko. I play Rakano Oni personally for Expedition, and I ended up taking out the Akkos because, honestly, it just seems to underperform too often for my liking, and I actually don't run them. I mean, obviously, Mattyocre playing Jacksnice means they're able to trigger him off a lot sooner and a little more consistently, but sometimes you just end up playing an expensive 1/1.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And drawing another double fire card in hand, so going to fire off another emblem here. They're going to decimate again.
So this kind of board style, though, it still does favor PapaCapricorn in the fact that they obviously have the larger units, where eventually Mattyocre is still going to be drawing 2 and 3 drops, where PapaCapricorn can play 4 and 5 and even 6 drops.
Mm-hmm. The Kalos Persuader on the Teething Whelp is actually really nice because the Persuasion gets the 2 damage, allowing the Teething Whelp to get flying, which allows it to go over PapaCapricorn's blockers and get the second mastery and become an 8/8 flyer on that one turn. So very nice turn there for Mattyocre.
Yeah, it kind of used the first shot from the barrel to get off the ground, and then the second one to actually kill their opponent. That's typically how the Teething Whelp does it.
That was pretty nice. All right, and then Incarnus here coming down. That was a nice draw for PapaCapricorn here, being able to draw a Desecrate off of that.
So that is note here. The emblems did allow Papa Capricorn to continue to play cards that were relevant, but now they're in a position here where they're at 3 power.
Hmm.
So even if they do see a second red source, which they just did, they aren't able to deploy either of their Eclipse Dragons. So would you deploy the 2/2 and Desecrate, or would you just go ahead and hold off and fire off the Cremate here?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think in this case, I'd rather fire off. I'd rather use 2 spells from my hand, so I think I would desecrate the flyer, and then play the 2/2 deadly. But that's tough. I could see it either way. Um, yeah, they do want that 5th power though, for sure.
Yeah, that is the one awkward interaction as well. And that's why you see some of these red decks in Expedition running Streets of Flames instead of another version of the removal spell because it combos very well with Eclipse Dragon versus Cremate does not. And then obviously Desecrate not being a fast spell, but they did get off the Acarna, so it wasn't even in their deck.
Yeah. Now, interesting here, the Crooked Alley Guide. So Mattyocre does have a Crooked Alley Guide in hand. Can shift that if they choose to. They don't, but you could shift that and give it unblockable in 3 turns. Now, PapaCapricorn can probably find an answer in 3 turns, but that unblockability can come into play.
So we also see Mattyocre deploying all their threats and trying to be as aggressive as possible, just deciding, you know what, I'm going to have to eventually get through these 2/2, so let's just start swinging. But they are kind of playing into it. No, remember, it is open deck list, correct?
Mm-hmm. It is, yep.
And so Mediocre does know that Malediction is in Papa Capricorn's hand, so that could potentially be a blowout. But they're deciding, you know what, they're at 1 life. Let's go ahead and get in there. Let's try to get them dead before they're able to kind of draw out of this.
Mm-hmm. Jack's Knife, not really able to be played here. Of course, it deals 2 damage to you when it's played.
I mean, there's always going out on your own terms, right?
Absolutely. Well, and the writing's on the wall, yeah, I do that, but I not quite there yet. PapaCapricorn is still alive. Another Beast Caller's Amulet here. I'm going to play that on the Kozin.
Yep, and we see Cremate come down, taking out the Kozin as well as the Beast Caller Amulet. And now, yep, we're going to trade off. So now, I mean, it's looking okay for Papa Capricorn. There we go.
There you
Getting
go.
a
That's
Kalos
gonna be
Persuader
nice,
off
yeah.
the top is definitely going to help.
Now, does
Now,
Matty have any charge units? I don't think so.
no, but they did have Charge, if I remember correct, or Char, if I remember correctly. So they do have some plays here. Of course, any emblems off the top are as well are going to be damaged. So let's see. I mean, Mattyocre has some outs, but the clock's going to start. The door's going to be closing real soon here with double Eclipse Dragon. They're going to have Charge to come in here. Kozin just made another 4/4 Dragon. The Teething Whelp got pumped up to a 5/5. So actually, wait a minute. Yeah, the next turn is lethal. So Mattyocre needs to have the top deck Char right now.
That is
Nope.
lethal. Nope. Oh, and a Caleb's Persuader. Oh, but no units to play it on. Oh man, with Caleb's Persuader in the deck, with your opponent at 1, I wonder if Mattyocre wants to hold back some of those units so that they can get the lethal off of Caleb's Persuader. Rough though, they don't have it there, and PapaCapricorn's gonna close the door real fast when they have the opportunity to do so.
I mean, well played on both sides. And once again, that's kind of the risk you take, what you sign up for when you play these aggressive low to the ground decks, where yeah, you can get ahead very quickly, but you want to make sure you have ways to get some reach, quote unquote, in there, because sometimes your opponent is able to stabilize if they draw 1 too many removal spells or just things line up in their favor, and then you're really just kind of sitting there really hoping to try to get those last bits of damage, and those are the tough ones when you lose with your opponent at 1 or 2 life.
Yeah, and it's tough. So far, I think Mattyocre's had some tough matchups here. You know, they historically talk about, you know, there's kind of a rock, paper, scissors of decks, right? When you have a really aggressive aggro deck, the best matchup for a really aggressive aggro deck is one that goes slightly bigger. And when you have a mid-range deck, the best combatant for a mid-range deck is one that goes slightly bigger, and you have a slightly bigger control deck. Mattyocre's very fast aggressive deck is nice, although it'd be more punishing against control decks if you're playing another aggro deck that just goes a little bit bigger and a little bit more value and a little bit more powerful than you are. It's really hard to match up against that because they're doing the same things you are, just better, and you're not going to be able to race out another quick deck that has efficient removal spells and efficient creatures. So it's tough for Mattyocre to really get that advantage, where if he was playing maybe a slower mid-range deck or slower control deck, be able to beat them before they were able to stabilize, but that's not the case here.
Yep, and you know that's the thing. That's the kind of the incentive for playing those low to the ground decks is the fact that your game plan is to ignore your opponent's game plan and just try to sneak in underneath the radar before they're able to set up whatever their game plan is. And you know, high risk, high reward. You end up not if your opponent stumbles on power or they miss a removal spell or just something one turn goes in your favor. A lot of times that's all you need to kind of seal the deal. And but then the flip side of that is there's also you run that risk of where you deploy your whole hand by turn 3, and then now you're kind of at the mercy at the top of your deck.
Yep. All right, Papa Capricorn here looking at a hand of Seek Power, a Smuggler, and an and an Incarnus here with 4 power. Mattyocre on the other side's got 2 Verets, a Jack's Knife, and a Crooked Alley Guide. So pretty good hand from both players here. Papa Capricorn needs a little bit more action, but with a Smuggler and an Incarnus, they're going to find it.
So do you see Papa Capricorn firing off that Smuggler on turn 3, or holding off till they have a better idea of what to get?
Well, I'd imagine you're just going to get a Malediction, most likely, based on how Mattyocre plays. If Mattyocre curves out the Veret into the other Veret here, then I think yes. I think Papa Capricorn right here. I would just go and get Malediction at this point.
Yeah, especially with so much power. Flooding this much might as well change one of those sigils into an actual relevant card.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you only snag, let's say Mattyocre passes back and doesn't even play another creature here, you can still fire it off for 2 units here. Although the Smuggler does threaten to trade with the Veret, of course. But I don't think Papa Capricorn has any problem with just Malediction the board and then following up with an Incarnus is a perfectly fine line of play here. Although the Jack's Knife's going to put that Malediction plan to rest.
Mm-hmm. So what mode do you go for on Vera here? Do you just snap off the automatic Aegis, or do you think you go for the Overwhelm or the Lifesteal? Because, I mean, they're all relevant, but obviously the default is to go for Aegis just to keep it alive.
Yeah, I think you go for the Aegis here. You don't really need the lifesteal in this matchup, I wouldn't think. If Mattyocre gets to a point in the game where he needs a lifesteal, then he's probably losing that game anyway. And I think Papa Capricorn's deck has so much removal that I think you just go for the Aegis here. Capricorn's going to fire off Incarnus here. Let's see what they grab. Unfortunately, we can't see the choice, of course, but we can't see the options, but we can see the final choice. Grabbing a Vara's Favor, interesting. That can pop the Aegis, but they don't have a removal spell to follow it up with.
Yeah, that's probably what they're going to go for. I mean, granted, they are running the Shadow Emblem that gives them Death Touch units, so the Aegis isn't an end-all be-all, but probably thinking ahead here, figuring out that that's probably going to be a threat eventually, so they rather, if they get a free way of taking that out, yeah, we'll probably see the Malediction here. I don't see Papa Capricorn giving Mattyocre a chance to get another Veret going off here, so I would not be surprised to see the Malediction. Sure enough, we do. Taking out 2 units and the Aegis off of the 6/6, but 6/6 is, I believe, going to hit Mastery next turn. It is. So it's then going to become an 11/11.
Well, the Capricorn's going to go to 6 here anyway, so it won't even matter at this point because they're going to go to 6. That card's lethal as it is. Need to find a removal spell this turn.
Well, no, not. They do have the blocker off the Overwhelm. So, I mean, this Vart does not have Overwhelm, so it could be blocked by a 1/1 and in this case a 3/3 Overwhelm. But Kozin also still a threat though as well, getting in there and being able to make a dragon after 2 hits.
Yeah, this is much more of the game that Mattyocre wanted to play. Get those early threats down. Get Papa Capricorn down to 5, and that's much more in range. There you go. There's the Persuader here.
Yeah, well, that's this game here.
Game.
Yep. Well played by Mattyocre there, really putting the pressure on. I mean, granted, Papa Capricorn did float out a little bit, which is one of the drawbacks. And once again, it's like we mentioned earlier, where that's where those low to the ground aggressive decks thrive on is if your opponent stumbles or they flood out, they draw, they miss one power drop, you're able to capitalize on that and really punish them. And sometimes the extra damage you get in one turn is just enough to maintain your beatdown status and put them on the back foot for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that game played out much more the way that Mattyocre wanted to play. So going into game 3 here, it's going to be tough. I think this is a little bit play draw dependent. I think that we could see. I think whoever is on the play in this matchup does have a big advantage. But But between these two decks, I think if I had to choose, I think I would go with Papa Capricorn's deck here. I think going a little bit bigger, as we talked about, just going slightly bigger, slightly over the top of what Mattyocre is doing, I think has the advantage. But I could also see, as we said, play draw dependent. If Mattyocre's on the play, then he could definitely have a curve out that goes under what Papa Capricorn's trying to do.
The fact that Papa Capricorn is running bigger removal as well as dragons, I feel like it kind of negates Teething Whelp for Mattyocre. So really, they're kind of hoping to ride the wave of Verret, really triggering Verret's mastery, getting that big unit on the board, and then putting pressure. Because the Teething Whelp has a couple answers. Cozen's not bad. It dodges Malediction, but it also doesn't tussle very well with these bigger dragons. So yeah, I think it's all based on riding on Verret, like being on the play, which obviously Mattyocre being, and then obviously getting down an early Verret and making it stick.
Yeah, Mattyocre being on the play here, so we will definitely have a game. And got that turn 1 Akko. But like you said, I haven't been as impressed with Akko as I think I saw in spoiler season. But in here, it will be pretty good here, going into a 2-3 on the play.
So do you think you fire off a Voprex choice to take out one of these two units? I mean, obviously it'd eat up the Akko, or do you just go ahead and deploy your Verret and hopefully try to race somewhat?
It's tough. You never really want to give your opponent the choice in this situation, being able to play out the blocker, and then that gives you the choice of who to block. But I think you also have to, though. You can't let Mattyocre just swarm you with too many units, and especially if Mattyocre had some sort of removal, Conflagrate or something, and take out your Verret, that would just be brutal. You can't let that happen and then get hit with both of those units.
Yep, and there is some consideration of the fact that Papa Capricorn has 2 of them, and they also have a Carvet. So I think their game plan might just be to like, hey, I need to stay alive until I drop Carvet, and then hopefully that's enough to kind of bridge the gap and help me start coming back from this game, because they are able to either remove a unit with it or just get back another Carvet.
Mm-hmm.
But we do see the other set of Voprex choice coming down, deciding, you know what? Yep.
Well, I think having 2 cremate in hands there, I think, makes a difference there as well. Now that you know that you have that backup removal for any follow-up units, makes it a lot easier, I think, to fire that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now it looks like we're going to see what Mattyocre doesn't want to see, where they're deploying 1 threat a turn, but Papa Capricorn has an answer to each threat, and so they just slowly working up their power.
Yep, and there you go. Now can take a turn off from playing that removal spell and deploy 2 units. Now that they're not under threat of those other master units, it's going to be a good turn for Papa Capricorn, and then has the 2 cremates in hand to follow up. Do you block here? Probably not with the 2 cremates in hand. You know that Mattyocre has combat tricks, has removal, has direct damage.
And sure enough, they don't.
Blocks, yeah.
I think I personally, knowing the power of Cozen, I think I might have fired off the cremate earlier, because Cozen has the ability to kind of be a 3-for-1, so to speak. Like for right there, we saw it make a 4/4 and give him a treasure trove to draw later on.
Yep.
And it's still going to require a removal spell. So I think Cozen's just one of those cards. It's really awkward. You hate to kill 1/5, but the fact that it's going to give you 2 cards off it and still leave the 1/5 body makes it that, like, sometimes you just want to nip it, in the butt before they have a chance. But obviously, having the cremate come down, take out the 4/4, so it still did some work. And Mattyocre still stuck with a 3/3 alley guide and a 1/5. Cozen not doing much now that the mastery's been triggered.
Mattyocre going to fire off a smuggler here. Let's see what they grab from the market.
Of note, Mattyocre is choked on power right now. I believe that's the 3rd or 2nd time they've missed their power. All right, there you go.
There you go. So they had that from their turn, and then they traded their treasure trove for a cremate. Which Capricorn's also solid. At 4, so kind of both players have not hit all their power drops either. Capricorn also going to go to the market. They're going to toss one of these Carvets away for the weapon, lifesteal weapon. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and that actually plays well against what Mattyocre is trying to do, because Mattyocre is trying to turn their unit sideways, or at least attack every turn with all their units. Mm-hmm. And so it might give an opportunity for Papa Capricorn to play the Falchion on the Verret and swing in there, making it large and gaining a ton of life.
Verret being colorless and can go in any of these decks is just extremely powerful, extremely flexible, gives you so many different options. And we've seen it in a couple different decks, a couple different matchups so far. Just a really nice card out of this new set.
Yeah, and sure enough, we see Mattyocre swinging with everything, willing to trade stuff. I wonder if they're trying to play around the malediction, trying to get in while they can. Oh no, okay, they have the spiteful strike. Interesting.
Spiteful strike there. Going to put PapaCapricorn down to 10. Now, of course, not knowing that they have the lifesteal weapon in hand. Although, interestingly here,
Oh, they don't play it.
hmm,
Well,
I have the
wait, they
cremate in
did. Okay.
hand.
Hmm.
Oh, this is gonna be brutal though. With
Yeah.
the cremate in hand.
Oof.
Oh, good play by
Man, that was.
Mattyocre. Well played by
Yeah.
not playing out Sheen, holding the removal spell, knowing that there's not really much PapaCapricorn can do there. Really well played there by Mattyocre.
Yeah, heads up play, definitely. That might have been what's interesting that Papa Capricorn decimated there.
That Jack's knife's
I
gonna,
just,
and that's just
ooh,
lethal.
and there we go. That's a game. Mattyocre
Wow.
taking it down.
Well played by Mattyocre there. Very well played. Really good timing on that cremate. And that was the cremate that they got from the market too. So things had
Mhm.
to go really right there for Mattyocre. If you think about how close that was, once he's able to start hitting with that life gain weapon, all of a sudden that game turns around real fast. So Mattyocre had to hit the fourth power, had to go to the market and get that, and then had to not play out another threat and hold it up that turn. So the three decisions, or three things had to go right for Mattyocre there, and worked out kind of perfectly in his favor to win that game and took that one 2-1.